Now, similarly, Nigeria's Minister of Humanitarian Affairs and Poverty Alleviation says that the federal government has commenced discussions with United Nations agencies in the country to solicit their help in tackling the nation's humanitarian challenges. The minister made this known in the nation's capital, Abuja, during the meeting with the United Nations Humanitarian Coordinator, saying that the government is working with the UN to develop a blueprint that can help in areas where it desires support.
We're coming up with a joint plan between the UN and, of course, the federal government of Nigeria on priority areas that they want the UN to intervene, and, of course, breaking it down into the technical next steps and the full implementation on ground. Steering committees that will involve the heads of UN agencies, different line ministries, and other agencies and parastatals that will be involved, so that we can have a well-coordinated implementation plan.
The minister has given us a bit of homework to do to figure out how our ongoing work can be adjusted to make sure that we fit with the priorities of President Tinubu and the government. So I think the main message is we're not starting at zero. We are now in a phase where we are needing to make sure that the work we do is really fully aligned with what His Excellency the President is driving for.
Well, now joining me on the news to discuss the issue is Kehinde Arowosegbe, Partnership and Local Rights Programs Manager with ActionAid Nigeria. Thank you so much for joining me, Kehinde, this afternoon.
Thank you for having me.
All right, so what are the anticipated outcomes from this joint initiative between the Nigerian government and also the UN?
I think this is a welcome development. The meeting will be, let me say, the collaboration will be beneficial to both government and the citizens of Nigeria, and also to us, the civil society organization. Because, you know, we do a lot by helping to see that we promote effective local governance in the country. And then, you know, because good governance is critical to development and prosperity of any country. Okay, so as civil society organizations, we do a lot to support Nigeria in fulfilling its responsibilities as state actors, to the people. It's a great benefit also to the poor, because we ensure that poor and communities have a voice to participate in decisions that concern them. So it's good, robust collaboration, and it's a welcome development.
All right, so Kehinde, it's no news that Nigeria is one of Africa's leading oil producers. Now, yet more than half of its population live below the poverty line, or as some reports will have it, in multidimensional poverty. Now, as a humanitarian personnel, what are your assessments on this disturbing statistic?
Yeah, the statistic is actually disturbing. I always say that poverty is a self-inflicted problem on Nigerians by Nigerians themselves. We have no reason at all to be poor. And I blame bad leadership. Years of bad leadership as major reason for this. Last year, I read a report in one of the newspapers that 4 out of 10 Nigerians live below poverty line. That was last year. And now I am sure the statistics will have escalated, not thanks to the recent fuel subsidy removal. We go to interior communities, we see poverty in the faces of the people. And all this boils down to corruption. Now, some few years ago, maybe like 2-3 years ago, ActionAid in Nigeria, with support from MacArthur Foundation, we supported communities, states in Nigeria and communities in Nigeria to monitor the school feeding program in the country. You'll be surprised that we went to a community, and then the women were telling us that we should thank government, that's the cooks, those that supply food to the students, to the children in school, in the primary schools. We should help them thank government. Thanking government for what? One of them said that since she was born, an adult, that she had never held 10,000 naira since she was born. Now she could hold 10,000 naira, she could hold 120,000 naira, coming to her from federal government to feed the children. Enter the bank. You can imagine that. And now that program has ceased for now. We are still waiting for the new government to go back, because that really has helped a lot to lift poverty in Nigeria. So now it is a disturbing statistic. And until we do something, the 4 out of 10 may, God forbid, be 7 out of 10.
Well, it's actually good to know that some of these palliatives are actually, are getting the intended, solutions that they're supposed to get. Now, what are some of the major humanitarian challenges currently faced by Nigeria?
You see, day to day, the number of IDPs keep increasing. We just returned, for instance, from actually, Nigeria just returned from Benue State, where we supported households, over 2,411 households, and over 30 million naira was spent. I mean, to cushion the effect of one crisis or the other between communities. I mean, not mention the ones we have done in terms of mitigating the effect of flooding in Nigeria. Okay, so a lot of crises keep coming up, a lot of issues keep coming up day by day, posing more challenges. And then this brings a lot of pressure on the little resources that are available to mitigate the effect of these challenges in Nigeria. We have inaccurate data also that I see as a problem in Nigeria. If you don't have accurate data, you can't plan. Data that must be something responsible for ensuring that we have the data we have in Nigeria in terms of humanitarian response is accurate. Who collects the data? Who gets the data? Who owns the data? What decisions are decision makers taking on the data supplied to them by civil society organizations? Okay, and then another thing I see is lack of planning from government. It's a great challenge. For example, we heard about the forecast of imminent flooding in Nigeria. And I asked government, what did the government do to prepare people ahead of the flood? These are some of the numerous challenges that humanitarian response faces in Nigeria.
All right, now recently the government actually declared an emergency on food security. Now, what are the factors that contribute to food insecurity in Nigeria, and what comprehensive long-term strategies can the government employ?
Yeah, thank you. I think the major challenge of all the challenges is insecurity. Nigerians can no longer go to the farms. Nigerians are afraid of coming out to go to the farms, and they have no other job to do than that. And we are the citizens, we sit there, we consume what they produce in the farms, and yet those who produce it cannot go to farm. So we have a lot of challenges like that. And then it's a big challenge. And then the bulk of farmers in Nigeria are women. Women farmers are not supported. Most of they are being deprived. Most times they are being deprived opportunities to own their own personal land to farm on, and they are the bulk of the farmers in Nigeria. So inability of farmers, and most especially women farmers, to get credit facilities is another challenge. They don't have the wherewithal, they don't have the money, to buy the machines that will help them to increase their produce. So if government can do that, it will be a very good plan. Enough of all the policies. What is government taking on board? How can government support women farmers? How can government support the farmers? How can they help them to ensure that all policies are favorable to them, the farmers? Thank you.
All right, Kehinde, just before we wrap up, now, how will developing a blueprint with the United Nations, after all you've said about these challenges, help Nigeria tackle its humanitarian challenges?
Well, it will help in the area of effective coordination, because there will be effective coordination of humanitarian response, and then it will help both to understand what different teams are working on. Not only the teams, the civil society organizations in Nigeria, what are we working on? What is actually Nigeria working on? What are other organizations working on? It will create a shared understanding of the bigger picture of humanitarian response in Nigeria. And then another thing is that there will be better and effective outcomes of our response. And then it will help in identifying and explaining priorities. And then lastly, there will be effective monitoring of the process, which has been the major problem so far.
All right, thank you so much, Kehinde Arowosegbe, for speaking on the federal government and United Nations Humanitarian Response Plan.
Thank you so much.